it is kind of counterintuitive, but the higher string as far as pitch or sonic sound level, if you're talking physics, this is the highest string by sound, and this is the lowest. So this one is our first string. And so that's the one we'll be talking about. So E. So if we can get everyone to do an E, just open, no fingers there. Good, good, good. All right. And so here's a trick. This is an example I always use. Obviously, it works better in person. So if any of you have ever played sports or catch with a ball, if someone's going to throw you a ball, what do? Do you have your hands ready, or do you just have your hands down? You obviously have your hands ready, because if you don't, the ball will smack you in the face, and that won't feel very good. So it's the same with guitar. Even though we're not playing this note, or even though we don't have our fingers here on the board, we still want them ready, right? So that's one of the most important parts, because if your hand is down here and you play this note and you have to come all the way up, because most likely the song you're playing isn't just one note, it's more than one. So having our hands ready here for our next note. All right, now this next advice is, to me, it's been the most important advice, especially for jazz guitar. Now, classical guitar is a little bit different because the fingerings are a lot more, dexterous and a lot of reaching. But for now, for kind of beginning from a jazz approach, we want this kind of formation here. So we're taking our first finger, we're putting on the first fret, right? And then our second finger on the second fret, and our third finger on the third fret, and our fourth finger on the fourth fret. And so what this does when you're holding these down like this is a great formation to have your fingers. So when we first start, which will be our first fingered note, F, right there, that will be first finger, first fret. And then our ring finger, this guy right here, will be third finger, third fret. And that's G. And those will be the first notes we're talking about. These other two notes, F sharp and G sharp, those come later. But the most important thing about this four-finger formation is that it stays with you everywhere you go. So let's say we're doing a really hard song like Charlie Parker's Don Lee. All right, so when I did that, it sounded probably very confusing, but no matter what I did through that, I have this formation: 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if we do something crazy, notice all throughout that, even though I'm shifting positions, I'm keeping this 1, 2, 3, 4 position right here. So that's really important. And it's also important to look at our thumb. I'm not trying to do this the most efficiently on Zoom, but you can see right here that my thumb is in the middle, and I'm using that as leverage. So if any of you guys are baseball fans or Cubs fans or Sox fans or Cardinals fans, you'll notice that when a pitcher throws the ball, he's pushing off a mound. And why is he doing that? To get momentum. And that's what kind of I call this right here. It's like a mound when we push. So when we push here, then that allows us to kind of get the sound we want. So if some of you are having trouble with the sound, not that I condone this, but back in the day, sometimes I would pinch my younger sister. And that's the kind of force that you need to play a note on the guitar. So if you're wondering, oh, well, why can't I get sound out of there? It's because you need to pinch and push down. So, all right, now hopefully we're gonna move along now and get a little bit deeper into this. So the three notes that we're looking at today: E, which is open; F, first finger, first fret; and G, third finger, third fret. And now you notice that when I play G, I still have F fingered right here. And you're probably wondering, why am I doing that? Well, it's because if we're playing an actual song, we want to keep this format that I talked about, because if we're playing a song, chances are if you play this note, the next note, you might be going back to it. And there's something in music called playing clean, and that is something that contributes toward it, because just like speaking, you want people to understand you and understand what you're saying. And same thing with music. if you play cleanly, you want people to understand what you're playing to them. Okay, all right, now if you guys want to type any questions you have so far about what we're talking about, please feel free to do so. And I'll do my best to answer them, because I think that's kind of the most efficient way to answer our questions. And all right, so let's kind of continue a bit. And if I see them, and if you have something that we talked about earlier and it pops up as a question, I will answer it. Okay. All right, so let's go a little bit further now. So we have E, F, and G. And so first finger, first fret, third finger, third fret, and those are what we're talking about. So now let's kind of move on to F. F sounds like this guy right here, and we're pinching right here, like we're kind of like a crab, we're pinching somebody. And so this is what it should sound like. And if your sound's a little off and you're playing the right string and the right note, it is because your guitar is out of tune. We live in the Midwest, so the changing weather and humidity will wreak havoc upon the wood on your guitar, always throwing it out of tune. So don't be afraid if it sounds a little bit different than what I'm playing. It's because your guitar's out of tune. It's not broken, just out of tune. Okay, so it's F right here. All right, and so now the next one we want to look at is ring finger G, right here. And you can lift this finger up, that's okay. And notice how I have, my other fingers are here though, in this 1, 2, 3, 4 position. They're not fingered down, but they're ready. So from here, I can either go here, I can go there, I can go anywhere from there. And that's really important to start this foundation now when you're first starting, so that you have good habits that continue later in your playing music. So having our fingers ready, because we don't want to tuck these back here and just kind of have like this kind of knuckle thing going on, because I see a lot of students, or a lot of students will want to hide their pinky and curl it back there, but we don't want to do that. We want to have it so our pinky can be used. Our pinky is really important. We just don't want to, you know, have it disappear. That would be very sad. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys some slides, and we're going to discuss these things. Oh, I see I have a, okay, yes, I'm just getting to that. Daniel asks what book I recommend, and this is, has been a really great book. I've been teaching for about 2 years, and I've taught probably, I've probably seen 80 or 90 students come in and out. And the ones that study with this book, I've seen the greatest success. So if that interests you, then I will do a quick screen share and we'll talk about this. So I'm actually on the Amazon link right now. You can see this. The book is called Hal Leonard Guitar Method Complete Edition. And you can see here it's like $14.99 for the plastic bound edition. And I'm going to go over some of the material in here. And if you should choose to study privately with me, this is most definitely what I will teach out of. Obviously, if you have a suggestion for a book that you really want to learn out of, and it's credible, then of course we can look in that. But anyway, so I will be starting with this book right now. So these are things that we kind of talked about. The book, you can see on the top is a steel string. And then in the middle, we have a nylon string, and then we have an electric guitar on the bottom. And so here it kind of talks about tuning, and that's something we'll kind of have to get into in person, because it's a little bit difficult to tune a guitar over Zoom. And then playing position. So we talked about this. And this is really important, like we talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I like sometimes say T or thumb or P, pulgar, which is a Spanish word because a lot of guitar notation is in Spanish, so you'll see that. We talked about how to hold a pick. Okay, we reviewed that. All right, so let's go over some basic music theory before we get started in reading music. So I'm sure you got, this might be a review for some of you guys, but if it's not, I'll go through it very quickly. So up here, I don't know if you can see my little hand clicker, but we have a staff, right? So music is written on a staff. And then we have a clef sign, which is treble clef. You have bass clef, treble clef, alto clef. Piano, read, and the left hand is bass clef, right hand, treble clef if you guys have studied piano. Violin reads treble clef. Alto clef, the only one I can think of off the top of my head is viola. All right, and so here are our lines. So we see E, G, B, D, and F, right? So on those, there's all sorts of mnemonic devices, which are just ways that people can remember it, like every good boy does fine, and then face for the spaces in there. This is something that we'll come across later, but all right, and then bar lines. So bar lines kind of separate things, ways that we can read it so it's not just a big jumbled mess. All right, so here's a really important part. So if there's something that you take away from this part right here, please remember this. When you see 4/4, it's telling you 4 quarter note beats per measure. And that's really important. If that doesn't make sense right now, that's okay. Just kind of get the idea rolling around in your head for now. At the bottom, kind of the bigger guys that look like Cheerios, those are whole notes. Those are with 4 beats or 4 pulses, right? That's sometimes what they're called, a pulse or a beat of a song. And that's just when you tap your foot along with it, for those of you who don't know that. All right, and so then we have half note, 2 beats, quarter note, 1 beat. All right, so now let's get back to the playing. All right, so I know we went through that kind of fast, and we'll go back over and review. But all right, so we're right here, and this is kind of a breakdown. So if you guys, I don't know if you can, but if you want to screenshot this, or if you go on the Hal Leonard, you can actually get these pages for free. That's what I'm doing to teach this lesson. So, all right, so let's take a look at review. So E, F, and G. All right. And so let's take a look at these lines. So when it says E, and then if you follow it down, it has a little arrow pointing to where it is. And how do you read those charts? It's just as if you were looking at your guitar. So I am looking at my guitar, and if you hold it up to that chart, it shows you where the string is played. So the top space, Mr. E, or E, an E note, that's where we're looking at right now. And that is the top space. So when you see that E, that's what that's telling you, is to play this note right here in that top space between the lines. Now F, he's on the top line, and that's this guy right here. So we're looking at the next space, and we're reading music right now, because that top line is always F, unless we are have a different clef. But we're in treble clef now. And so the top above everybody, G, the example I always use is Mr. G. He has a nice, cool penthouse, and he overlooks everybody, and he's in that top, he's on top of everybody, and he's Mr. G in his penthouse. And that's that 3rd fret right there, and that's above everybody on the reading music. Okay. So let's keep going. Or here, I'll stop and see if we have any questions. Okay, so it appears that we don't have any more. So I'm going to go back to our screen share and go back to, okay. All right, so reading music. So I'll kind of keep this up because we're going to focus on where it says number 1. We're going to focus on that first etude right there. So you probably hear the word etude. What does that even mean? It means kind of like a study, a song to learn in order to learn a specific goal, right? So if you had an etude on the E string, that would just be playing a song on the E string, right? So this etude right here, we're just looking on the E string. And the bigger notes, the round ones that kind of look like a Cheerio or a circle, those are worth 4 beats. So those are 4 counts. So I'm gonna play, I'll try and tap my foot super loud so you can kind of hear the, or you know what, I should probably just use the metronome. That would be the best way to do that. So let me pull up my metronome right here. And it is taking a while to load. There we go. All right. And so I'm going to set it just to where it's clicking there. And so metronomes are great tools. They allow us to learn music and perfect it. And many of you may have seen one before, but it's simply just a continuous pulse that we can use. Okay, so I'm going to play this first example, and then I'm going to break it down and talk about what exactly is going on. And I'm going to count 2, because at the bottom you'll notice it says 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's just telling you how to count the pulses. So I'll do that for us. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. E, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. F, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. So some things that I did there. I was counting 1, 2, 3, 4. You're probably asking, why are you counting to 4? Well, the little numbers to the left are telling us 4 quarter note beats or pulses for every measure. And so the bigger guys, the Cheerio looking ones, those are worth 4 beats. So each time I would play one of those, there would be 4 beats going on. And at the bottom, I was just counting. So eventually you want to transfer that into your head, because if you're playing a show for people or playing a concert, you don't want to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, you know, that would look kind of cheesy and distracting from the music. But yeah, so and there's also fine print too. You always got to check the fine print. It says hold first finger down when you play the third finger. And so why are you doing that? Well, it's because you're coming back to that note, right? That's really important. Like we talked about, having this 1, 2, 3, 4 position right here. And the reason we did that is because we played E, F, and then G, but after G, we come back to F, right? And so then we go back to E, and my hand is still ready to play. Because if you look a little further down at these songs, they kind of get more complex as we go, and we want our hands to be ready to use or to play these songs. Okay, so I am, oh, what happened to our, there we go. All right, so I am going to, if you guys want to screenshot this, I'm gonna leave this up for like 1 minute or a few seconds. And if you have Mac, that's just Command-Shift-4, and you can kind of screen capture that. Or you can go on the website of Amazon. It's just Hal Leonard Guitar Complete Edition. And that's the one I would recommend. And I have it pulled up right here, so you can kind of just take that right from here if you would like. And then after that, we'll recap and then open it up if you guys have any questions. So I would say that, and for those of you who are a little more advanced and maybe can read and go through a little quicker, on these next ones, on the second one, you'll see that the notes are half notes. So what does that mean? Half note means that there's worth only 2 beats, half of the measure, right? In the context of 4/4. And most of all, half notes always just have a worth of 2 beats. So this one, the number 2, would look 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this context right here, you notice that like I said, when I played the G, my finger right here was still held down because I'm coming back to it. And that's just good form. And then that way we don't have this G and then shuffling on the strings of us trying to get back to where we're going to go. We're already set up for our destination of where we want to play and the note we want to play. And then the final example, I'll go through this real quick, is we have number 3, which are all quarter notes, and those are just worth 1 pulse. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And you're probably wondering why I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, because I'm counting out the measures. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4. Third measure, 3, 2, 3, 4. Fourth, and so on, etc. And that's just a way that you can count and keep track of what measure you're on in your head. Or if you're reading music, because as some of you get older, you'll play in jazz bands or orchestras, and you'll have lots of blank measures that you have to keep track of, and it's just a way to, in your head, kind of know where you are. Okay, so that's what we went through today. To recap, E, F, G, right? Those were our notes that we went over today. And I'm gonna stop the screen share for now. Okay, so if any of you have any questions you would like to send them in, and it can be about anything that you would like. It can be about just music in general. It can be about this lesson that we had today. Maybe you want something more advanced in the last few minutes that we have, or yeah. Also, one thing that I would recommend for all of you, and I do this too, and I can kind of show you what mine looks like, but I have just a little a music notebook here, and I do a lot of like writing and production. And in here, let's just see if I can find a good example. I just make notes of whether it's music or things I learn, or little diagrams, as you can see here, for music production. It's just good to have a little journal that you kind of keep track of what you're doing. A really great project for all of you that has really changed my music, and you don't have to be proficient in an instrument to really take advantage of it, is I would highly recommend each and every one of you to listen to as much music as you can. If you're really serious about it, I would highly recommend listening to an album of music a day. And it can be anything you want, just as long as it's a new album every day. And the project I do is I'll write the name of the album, or I'll write the artist, the name of the album, what number album it is, and I'll write a song from the album and write what I liked about the song. And the reason why this is extremely helpful is it gives you vocabulary. If you are students of the human mind, when young children are acquiring their language skills, they're listening to language around them in order to speak their language when they come of age. So it's the same, music functions the same way. So I'd highly recommend, so if you have a favorite artist, let's say you like, who's someone, the Jonas Brothers, for example. Let's say you like them, then maybe go back and listen to their entire albums. And you don't have to just sit and intently focus. It can be maybe while you're helping around the house, or I don't know if you guys are cooking yet, but when I cook, I like to put an album on and I'll listen to the album and make dinner. And then when I wash the dishes, I'll listen to, or if I'm on a run, I'll put that on, or it can be just when you're, relaxing. So it looks like we're at about a half hour. Are there any last minute questions? All right, so I think that should just about do it for us today. Thank you guys. I can see from your screens that it looks like you're following along with the E, F, and G. So not that I want to assign homework, but on the next video or masterclass that I'll do is I'm going to pick up where we left off and start going on to the other etudes that follow the E, F, and G and going through those and helping you guys through those. So what I would recommend is starting, if you can and you're able to, picking up the guitar every day. And the goal is to just pick the guitar up and play it a few times. If all you do is you pick it up and you play just a little bit, that's great. As long as the guitar is in your hand once a day, that's great. And just getting in, it can just be as simple as a few minutes of just kind of playing around with what we talked about. And if you have access to the book, looking those over. If you can't get access, you can just go on and look at the first few pages. They have them available there for you. And then like we talked about, it can be while you're doing something else. Maybe you're in your backyard playing a sport. Just put on an album. It can be anything you want in this era of Spotify and YouTube. You can find anything. Find an artist you like and just start listening to their music, because that's the best way to learn, I promise. All right, so that kind of wraps up. Is there anything from Alan, or should I exit out now? I will.
Looks like we should be all set. We'll just wait for the participants to leave the meeting, and then you can close the meeting.
Okay, so whenever you guys are ready, our meeting is done for today. And so if you want to exit out.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Have a great, safe week.
You too. Okay.
Thanks, Cole.
Yep. Is that